Long ago, before the change of weather on Glubira made a global climate cooling period begin, the Aborigines of this continent dug and excavated roads through the stone of a straight nature. The world sea level was much lower then, as the continental crust was higher without so much ice. The continental shelf was drier. We have rediscovered these ancient roads that were carved in stone along the continental shelf and recovered them much with mechanical labor. They have been upgraded with fusion-drilled pipes for resistance, transit from the offshore ice mass to continental regions. Let's go. In several minutes of walking through the cold, dimly illuminated ice chambers, we reached the drop shaft and stepped into a black space of total darkness. The sensation of falling was almost absent. Staying upright because the shaft was too narrow to allow us to turn sideways, we gradually slowed as the shaft debouched onto an icy curve to horizontal alignment with local gravity. We were in a Kievan chamber without an exit except forward. Forward might be through any one of several perfectly round tunnels ahead. What one do you like, Patrick? Is it up to me then? I would say let's go for tunnel number 3, right in the middle. Well, you could, except we're not going to the South Pole right now by our Shiverdosk station, so why not try the tunnel on the right? Okay, that seems just right, Norm. We got up from the ice and walked over to the entrance of the large right tunnel. Inside a few feet was a waiting electric pigmobile. We entered and scrunched ourselves into the seats. Norma engaged the go mechanism and off it whisked us at a reasonable uncertain speed. The North Panphrygian continent of Glebir was given a methane gas delivery pipeline network over the past several centuries. Our political cliche classes grew dependent upon carbonated gas energy for political and social power. It was easy to control and would last for centuries or millennia. The cost to society, of course, was the ossification of social intelligence and inventiveness. Glebir is a petty corporate society of its own, without help from universal corporate. Our corporate collective leadership castes are heavily bureaucratized with only a vestigial desire to expand the economy to increase personal consumption, power over consumers, and personal pleasure levels. The Glebir economy is moribund, and our leaders have made a religious cult of secularism the reason for being. Economics have replaced spirit as the object of fetish worship. Our generation of fossil fuel caste leaders built a vast network of methane gas pipelines that we must sacrifice today in order to divert attention away from the heavily fortified red zone, where the corporate omnidimensional conduit to the propaganda division is believed to be located. For the past 5 weeks, in anticipation of this moment, the resistance has infiltrated a high explosive recombinant catalytic dual dust into the gas and carbon-based liquid fuel pipelines of North Panphrygia. With the appropriate coded signal, the entire methane liquid fuel pipeline system will detonate, and that should provide sufficient diversion of the tension outside the red zone to let us slip in. You are going with me? Going to the omnidirectional conduit? Of course, Patrick. Do you think I can get my job back at the bar? The silent electric pig continued to pass along the dark tunnel. We took another branch to the right. Norma continued with a mission briefing. In a few minutes, we will be arriving at the new Guanoton station below the north end of the long island on which St. Novilistricka was built. Many things will begin happening at once you need to know before we arrive. The last president of the Glebir Republic was our Sun King, President Full Moon. He developed another layer of security that the incumbent President New Moon has maintained in force. These are the Chimera dog police, one of which nearly sampled you in getting away in the Pond Skipper. I cannot say for certain what form they will take at any given place. They have a built-in shelf expectancy termination date to prevent their increase and betrayal of their programming. The Chimera police, Panther Turtles, have significant IQs of 60 or 70, and their characters are programmed for bull-dogged stubbornness and tenacity with a Doberman sense of hate. Watch yourself. We will exit the electric pig and poke our way through the rubble of the terminal and concealed passages to the surface, with timing of the explosion of the North Panphrygian pipeline network set just before our arrival. Here is the location of the Division of Propaganda's Red Zone officers in New Novilistricka, she said, drawing in the darkened air with a finger pointer holographic painting pen. If I don't make it, you must carry on the mission to the omnidimensional conduit. When you reach corporate's field headquarters, you will need to improvise and make your time cost dearly to corporate controllers. If you intend to go to the corporate field office, I am sure that you will make it, Norma. Tell me, though, do you think Dostoevsky was an existentialist writer because of his technique, which was great elaboration of interpersonal scenes without regard in particular to elaboration of larger political purpose, while Tolstoy's writing method of expository writing of a grand theme that sometimes failed to fulfill the expectations of the early chapters of the novel, such as his Anna Karenina, was not existentialist because it had an overall plot structure with a central message. You have read Earth's 19th century Anno Domini Russian authors, Patrick. That's marvelous. Yes, I largely agree. The brothers Karamazov and Dostoevsky's other excellent book, The Idiot, each makes of politics a somewhat irrelevant discontinuum. Political powers are largely opposed to being reduced to an existentialist perspective by their subjects. Democracies are the basic exception to the political rule of rulers hating to be considered less than big by their minions. Dostoevsky considered about every human interest under the sun worth considering for its intrinsic interest, and government perhaps less so, while Tolstoy constructed grand monuments to the romantic pragmatic need for liberal betterment of the human condition. I think, Norma, that many opposite points of view are a function of the circularity of language and of meanings. Empiricism and idealism, scientism and romanticism, and many other intellectual opposites are different points of view from the same human language criterion. Human languages get their value originally by describing or labeling event phenomena commonly experienced socially. Meanings are in the words, and words describe objects, yet the meanings and words are pragmatic, best-functioning choices of intelligence to communicate idea, will, information, and such to others. Metaphysical questions may develop within a given universe set of language specialization. Language lexicons are sets and groups of words with given meanings not unlike mathematical sets and algebra groups. The function of each language group is associated with its material purpose. It could be scientific or psychological, yet asking questions about the real nature of objects or things not given within its own lexicon. Word set requires that it abandon the limits of the set and translate and transfer existing words and ideas into newer groups of words and sets of ideas. Metaphysical ideas become irrepressible without an increase of the vocabulary of ideas that have limited knowledge. Knowledge is communicated with words and meanings, often from specialized researches such as in quantum mechanics, in which new words are given to new material discoveries. Language follows developmental use and pragmatic functions, yet it remains language about functioning circumstances. Language is always different, and things in themselves as human bodies are always different than human minds. Language, logic, and material objects like math and physical objects have fundamental differences in being. Words and ideas are not everything else experienced in the empirical world, and that interval in explicit, explicated compresence makes words and thought personal and social epistemological tools for the comprehension of what is experienced. Though they evolve together, the human mind and language and space-time continue, such as Universe 1, are heterodox and different. It is a paradox if they ever come together and form any sort of coherent progeny, isn't it? Well, Patrick, a tool using culture just picks up stones and lashes them onto sticks to make crude clubs and hammers. Such primitives don't think a lot about the process, at least not philosophically. They just get it done. M.C. Escher's drawings and paintings on perspective and various themes presented an investigation into the way that dimensions function in perspective. Design must be a function on intention rather than objective criteria, perhaps. Ant-scale creatures with limited thought instruction behaviors make good nests, intentionally rather than randomly. That is a consequence of non-sentient laws of nature at a higher level forming interesting structures, felicitous for the purpose of the existence of that life form. In Escher's view of dimensions and content, we discover what can be represented in 3 dimensions looking to 4. If we seek design in nature and the universe, we must look for purpose. Design is also a word. The word exists in a linguistic ontology as well as a universal ontology. If someone arranges a bowl of fruit, that was a design. If an artist paints an apparition of a fruit bowl and signs it, it is a design. As an acquaintance in the off-world dimension rectification industry said, you've got to put some intention in it. Design may be a duplication of that which already exists. Copying a design is an instance of that existential purpose of copying a design. We like to consider a design to be a configuration of order of non-self-existing materials, yet there is more to it than that. It's an idea from which many philosophical departures may begin. When human development continued for so many generations that vast language and philosophical databases compiled more of a parallax of creativity with mass, energy, and what are regarded as material objects, our knowledge developed too. When human intelligence made the entire material world a malleable subject, The philosophical question arose about what the material world really would be if it were entirely subject to the human mind and its restructuring, much less making the inference that an intelligent designer designed everything. If all of quantum mechanical wave particles were arranged in arbitrary waves of comfort to corporate, not only would questions such as would the entire floppy mess collapse arise, but deeper epistemological questions arise as well. Such questions as are material, corresponding shapes, or universe constructions matching human a priori thought designs completely still, material without space-time transformation.